In this video, I'm going to cover 5 tips on how to help you improve the speed of the insurance claims approval process. Let's get into it. Timing is everything. When it comes to the approval claims process, the time in which it takes to get from the very beginning, from the start, all the way through to the end is critical to your success in the insurance restoration industry. The speed that it takes you from the time the client contacts you, from the very first time, the time that it takes you to get from there all the way to from the cradle to the grave to when you're collecting your very last payment from that client, all the repairs have been completed, the insurance company has paid everything, and the mortgage company has released all of the funds. That's what I really want to get into here. That's what this video is about. But first, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be coming out with a ton of new content here in the future. First, I feel like a lot of you don't realize the true importance of the time that it takes you to get from the cradle to the grave in the insurance claims process. It really is everything. Now, if you're a general contractor, I understand why you've trained your brain not to worry about the time that it takes on these jobs, because you're probably thinking, look, my labor really doesn't change. I use subcontractors. They charge me, in roofing, for example, they charge me a set number of dollars per square, so it doesn't matter how long they take. It doesn't matter if it takes them 1 day or 5 days. I'm still getting the same, because it's not going to cost me any more if those guys take longer to do the job, because I'm paying them the same amount regardless, right? That's what you're thinking. But I want to encourage you real quickly to think about this just a tad bit differently. And this is where, people used to tell me when I was younger, time is money, time is money. And I didn't truly grasp what it is that they were really talking about until I looked at it this way. You think about, what if you were a contractor that built decks for a living? Like you were a deck carpenter, a deck contractor, if you will. And that's all you did. You just built decks. And let's say that you built these decks for like a builder, for example, residential decks for the same builder, and let's just say that you only have one plan, like you only have one spec that you use, one size, one shape. Every single time the deck is built exactly the same way. It's built with the same sizes, same materials, and you even use the same laborers to pull it off. So every single time, let's just assume that after you pay out your labor, your subs to do the job, and after you pay for all the materials on that job, let's just assume for a moment that you profit $5,000. So each and every time that you build one of these decks for a builder, you profit $5,000, okay? And let's just assume that it takes you exactly 1 working week to get this deck done every time you build it. And so essentially every week you're building a deck, you're collecting the money, and you're making in profit $5,000 at the end of the day. So if I was doing that and someone came to me and they asked me, hey Chad, how much do you make for a living? And I thought about that for a second. I thought, well, I make about $5,000 a week. That's my income, okay? And how I come up with that is I build the same deck every week. It takes me a week to complete it. I profit $5,000 each and every time that I complete that deck. And so therefore I make $5,000 a week. And you're smarter than me, and so you get it before I do, and you say, well, wait a second, Chad, what if it rains 1 week, or what if the weather's bad, or something else comes up? You have some guy calls off sick. What if something comes up and you can't? It takes you longer than that 1 working week to get that job done. And when I say working week, I'm talking about say 5 days or 6 days, and every single week you're assuming that you complete this deck. You make $5,000 in profit every single week. And what if it were to take me 2 weeks all of a sudden? Do I still make $5,000 a week? No, I don't. My overall income, the Chad business, right? The Chad deck business, it does not make an income $5,000 a week if it takes me ever during the year longer than 1 week to get that job done. So if it takes me 2 weeks, for example, to get that job done, how much is it do I make now? Do I still make $5,000 in profit? No, I don't make $5,000 a week anymore. Now I make $2,500 a week. You see how that works? I mean, you really think about that. No, it's simple logic and reason here, but sometimes the more simple stuff, the most common sense stuff are the things that we miss. I've just slashed my income down by half. 50%. So I've gone from making $5,000 a week to now only making $2,500 a week, right? That's where time is money. If you're a contractor, if you're in the contracting space, that's what it means when I say time is money. Now, what if we're talking about a job that's 10 times the size of that? Or what if we're talking about multiple jobs, like say 10 jobs, that all of them are being delayed by 2 weeks, right? So it kind of depends on how much volume you do as a contractor. You do the math, you plug it in, you can kind of figure out, you know, if these jobs take me longer, or if all the jobs that I have in my pipeline right now, if they take twice as long as that I project, essentially that's going to cost me a ton of money. I'm only gonna make half the amount. That's the way you've got to be looking at it, especially if you are, you know, recycling jobs all the way throughout the year, like you should be. You need to be thinking about, you know, time is money. So I've got to get these jobs done as fast as humanly possible. Now, I could just say that and say, hey, you need to pick up the pace on these jobs. And you could think to yourself, yeah, I really need to do a better job. But I think if you're all honest with yourselves, you know, and this is the way it always was for me as a contractor. It didn't matter how hard I tried or how hard I worked, you know, I wasn't getting things done as fast as I'd like to do. And there was always what I would refer to as money out on the streets, you know, cash out on the streets, or the supplementing process. What if, you know, and so many contractors are like this, where they know they have to get their supplements submitted into the insurance company, and they have a ton of them on the books, but they're backed up, and so they're flying through these jobs. And even worse, a lot of contractors are building the jobs, like they're completing the roofs, they're doing roofs and flying through all the repairs that are on the paperwork, and they know that they can write an estimate and submit a supplement and get these numbers up, but they've gotten themselves backed up. Maybe it's after a hurricane or after a hailstorm, and they're just moving too fast. They're signing people up too fast. They're building things too fast, but they're not submitting their supplements. That's leaving cash out on the streets. Or what about with the mortgage company? What about when you move all the way through that process with the insurance company? Are we doing a good enough job with the mortgage company, getting the mortgage company to release funds? Are you just putting that in the hands of your client to take care of that part? Or are you taking charge and are you handling that, managing that process for the client? Those are the things that I want to touch on today, because I really want to address this and spend some time with it, because I realize just how important it really is. You know, if you're someone like me that has been through the ups and downs of this business, which I have, and we're going on 20 plus years, 22, 23 years, and I have been at the very, very top of this business, and I've been at the very, very bottom of this business. I've suffered greatly because I didn't know what I was doing at times, and even worse, most of the time I thought I did know what I was doing, but I really didn't have any idea what I was doing. There was always room for improvement, but unfortunately the trial and error process, you know, experience, it's the best way to learn, but sometimes it could be the method of learning that takes the longest, if you will. So if you are like me and you've been through the ups and downs, or maybe right now you're just like down in the dumps, you're frustrated with how things are going, seems like nothing's working out, people aren't signing up, you're kind of like in a sales slump maybe, or you can't get adjusters to get on the same page with you. It seems like, you know, your estimates are always up here, but the insurance companies, no matter who you work with, they're never approving your supplements, they're denying, or if you've got mortgage companies that are holding on to the cash and they don't seem to get it, and it seems like you're giving them everything they asked for, but there's still something else that they want. You know, that is what I want to address and get into today, and I just want to take a moment to encourage you and to try to motivate you and inspire you to just keep going, keep grinding. Consistency in this business is more important than anything. I would like to tell you, I believe that you are in one of the best businesses that there ever was. I mean, think about it. This kind of industry, this business that we roll in, right? There's people that can be at the very, very bottom in their life. Like maybe they got fired from an old job, like a long time career, and they had all this retirement built up, and all of a sudden they found out they lost their retirement and got laid off, or whatever the case may be. Or it could be a kid that made some mistakes in their young life, and they had plans maybe to go to the military or go on to college, but they made mistakes, and now they find themselves, as a young adult, not sure about direction, where to go. Now, this business can take somebody from any background, any environment, and almost immediately things can happen to where you're having a 6-figure, even sometimes 7-figure income before you even know it. For some, it happens very quickly. Others, it takes time. But the key is consistency. The key is continuing to fill that pipeline, process that pipeline, keep things moving through as fast and efficiently as possible. Do the best job you can. Leave it all out on the field. Because when you're doing that, good things happen. The harder you work, the luckier you get. This is what my grandpa used to always tell me. It's so true. If you just keep plugging away, you never know when somebody's going to call you up with a $5 million project or even a $1 million project, right? A lot of you would like to hear that call. So I just like to, encourage you, before I get into these 5 points, to stick with it. Keep grinding, right? I do want you, take the time to. I want you to go to iescertified.com if you've not signed up for my training course. It's over 30 hours of video and audio training. The forms, the example agreements that you could use of mine. I have over 27 different examples of Xactimate estimates that I've written. You can use those. You can use the ESX files to plug them into your estimates and make them your own, and then change, the various measurements and such that are specific to your job. But just about any type of insurance restoration project you can think of, any type of roof, a fire job, water damage job, mitigation job, anything you can think of. There's even pest control, like with critters, there's some of that in there. Vandalism, anything you can think of, it's in there. Tree hits a building, it's in there. The estimate's in there. So siding, roofing, interior, emergency work, contents. So all those different estimate types are there. The building code snippets that are what there's a whole section on building codes. It'll teach you exactly, which building codes you should even use, how to find out which codes you should use specific to your job. Where to locate those at, and then inside of the codes that you're supposed to be using, what are the specific codes that you are using most of the time for your job to get better results and better approvals. All of that's in there, like my most frequent building codes that I use and building code snippets, and I keep those updated every time they're updated to the next version of the codes. So those are in there. Forms and documents, in addition to the 30 plus hours of audio and video training. Tests that you can take, you become certified. IES certified is why it's called that. IES standing for inspections, estimates, and supplements. But I say this, the amount of money that it costs to get into that course, just in the forms and documents section, it was worth well beyond that. So I feel like you recoup your investment immediately upon signing up. So go to iescertified.com. We're 3 years and 3 years plus and then some with the training course, and still going strong. So very, very proud of that. Shout out to all my students that are in the course and have gone through the course. iescertified.com. Get there. And then finally, if you need to contact me for any reason, if you need to hire me for a consultant on a project that you're working on, feel free to reach me, insurancerestorationtraining.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Connect with me there as well. Tip number 1 for how to improve the speed of the insurance claim process. Take control of the sign-up process, the process by which you are signing up the client, them signing a contract with you, them hiring you. That process, control that process. I'm going to give you a few pieces of advice for how to do that, and it all starts with before you ever even go out to meet with the client. Okay, I feel like you need to be creating sort of a roadmap for your customer or your potential customer right from the very beginning. You need to set very, very clear expectations, okay? Let them know what to expect from the entire process. I think it's so tragic when folks will think in their mind, like, I can't let the client, the property owner, I can't let them know how much money I'm making with the insurance company. I got to leave them out of that estimating process. I think you're forfeiting a very, very powerful tool in that teammate, which is your client. And so I really don't want to work with a client unless they're going to be an excellent teammate. And I say this a lot, and I really believe it too, and I think you should believe it too, is that every client that you work with, okay, and this is how I do in my career, still to this day, every client that you work with needs to be able to qualify to do business with you, okay, and not the other way around. They need to be able to qualify to do business with you. You don't need to qualify to do business with them. That's the demeanor, not that you're cocky and you say that to them, openly and direct or disrespectful, but I believe that is the body language, the tone, the demeanor, the confidence level that you need to be able to have. Let me think about this. We go out and sign up people, for 6-figure projects, 7-figure projects, and we don't even ask them for a copy of their identification, much less do a credit check on them, look into their background, see if they have anything pending against them or any active liens from other contractors. These are things that we don't think about. We just rely, because they own the property, or at least we believe that they own the property. A lot of times we don't even verify that, right? So I think a lot of times we just think that, we're going to jump through hoops for the customer. We're going to do whatever it is because they're up here, they're above us, right? And so I just want to encourage you to give yourself some more worth, some more value. You need to prevent you getting into situations that you wish you could get out of, or working with a client that you can't stand. All of those things are bad for business. They're bad for the bottom line. They're going to delay things. They're going to take more time. And so I think with your client, you need to do a better job of pre-qualifying them, okay, before you ever even go out to meet with them. And very quick, 5 different things that you can ask them, 5 different questions that you can ask them before you even go out to see them, okay? I'm sure that you get into the basics with them already, like you're asking, their information, their name, you've got their phone number because they're calling you, the address. I think a lot of times you're maybe in your truck, and you're grabbing a notebook and you're saying, okay, let me jot this down, and you're writing down their name and number and their address, and you're saying, oh, let's see, are you going to be home around 3? And they're telling you about the roof, maybe some gutters and other things, and so you probably have that kind of basic info, but you a lot of times maybe not asking them questions about other things, right? You're kind of trying to keep it brief because you don't want to lose them. Even if it's only subconscious, I believe in your mind, you have this fear that you're not good enough, and the more they talk to you, the longer they talk to you, you might lose them, right? Or if you get into too much information with how your process works, then that might scare them off and you might lose them, right? I want you to get away from that, okay? Forget about that. That's not accurate. And if you really do feel that way, they're going to a lot of times pick up on it, and you're going to lose the job to somebody that's more confident about what they're doing, okay? So in addition to, instead of thinking to yourself, I'm just going to try to get the appointment and I'll go out there, even if it's just like a little small repair or something, because then I'm going to see where it leads from there. Maybe that'll open up opportunities. But what's happening is you're fighting traffic, you're spending hours, to get out there, you're probably putting a more important client as far as priority goes off, somebody that maybe already has applied coverage or somebody that has an appointment with an adjuster. You may be putting them off to go and see if something pans out with that client. I just think that if you would maybe ask more questions, be a little bit more diligent, more thorough with them on the phone. So you've got their basic information. Now I want to know just a couple other things that I'll ask them. So number 1, have you already notified the insurance company? All right. So notice I didn't say, have you already filed a claim? it's two different questions that really mean the same thing, right? So the answer that you get back is going to be an answer to either one of those questions. So I don't say, have you already filed the claim? But I just say, have you already notified the insurance company? Yes, they say, okay, great. And number two, have they already sent somebody out? All right, so have you already notified the insurance company, and have they already sent someone out? Okay, great. And what did they say? Right? I mean, because like when you say, have you already notified the insurance company? They're like, yeah, we filed the claim. They'll usually give you a little more context on that, right? And have they already sent someone out? Yeah, they came out, a couple weeks ago, or they came out right away. Or no, they're coming this coming Tuesday. Well, if that's the answer, you know that you got to get out there and get them signed up, by the way, because I don't like to go to adjuster meetings unless they're already signed up as a client, and get them signed up, okay, before the adjuster comes. So that'll be very, very important to know, right? So have you already notified the insurance company? Have they already sent someone out? And what'd they say, right? See, I didn't say, did they approve the claim? Or what repairs did they approve? Or can I see a copy of your estimate? Can you send me a copy of your estimate? I think that's a bad look too. It can come off the wrong way with a lot of clients. I understand there's a lot of you watching, that's your very first thing you do. And before I even touch this thing, you're gonna send me a copy of your estimate. I like that confidence, okay? But I think you can accomplish the same result by allowing them to shove the paperwork into your hand without you ever asking for it, because they already believe in you, that you're the expert, and they are hoping that you can decipher and translate this gibberish that they have in the form of an insurance estimate. And because they rely on you as the expert, and they know that you probably have the solution. So instead of, making them just send me the information, instead of asking them, did they approve the damages, I just say, and what'd they say? And they'll usually tell me. They'll say, well, they say I need a new roof. Or they looked inside, they saw some water spots, they said that that's part of it too, or they have maybe some fence, and I'll ask them, did you have interior damage? Did you notice anything around windows? Did you notice anything around your closets? Did you look, I'll ask some specific questions, because then it lets them know that I know what I'm talking about and I know what to look for. And maybe the adjuster didn't look for any of those things, and they're like, wow, okay, I really need to get this guy out here, right? Okay, so have you already notified the insurance company? Okay, great. Have they already sent someone out? Okay, great. And what did they say? All right, great. And then this fourth question is just very natural, and that is, who is your insurance company, right? You can just roll right into the next one. What'd they say? And by the way, who is your insurance company? And they'll tell me. They'll say State Farm, or Nationwide, or USAA, or Allstate, right? And I think that these 5 questions that you ask should be on a lead form that you fill out, so you don't have to think about what they are. They're already on a form, and there's a blank space where you just have to fill in the answer, right? You're asking them the question, just fill in the answer. Okay, and who is your insurance company? State Farm, jotting that down, right? And then the 5th question, it's not really related to the insurance stuff, but it's just as important, because it'll let you know, are they serious? And that question is, okay, and when are you looking to have the project completed? When are you looking to get the project completed, right? That's what I like to say, because a lot of times they'll say, well, we're not going to do it this year. We're just trying to get ideas, see where we're at. We're going to do it next year. Okay, great. Well, why don't you call me next year, and then we'll start the process then, because I'm busy, right? I like to look at this as like, I'm a moving train that's always moving, and it's always moving forward, by the way, right? And it makes stops. So the train has made a stop here for this client. I'm gonna give them every opportunity, all the opportunity, best service in the world, to get on the train and come along and go forward with me, right? But if there ever becomes a time where they're not ready to get on that train, that's fine. They don't have to get on the train, but at a set time, that train is taking off and it's moving forward. And if they want to catch up with me, I'm not going to take that train and reverse it backwards somehow to come back and pick them up. No, they're going to have to catch up with me. They're going to have to meet up with me. They're going to have to get on the train at the next stop, right? They're going to have to come and find me wherever I'm at and see if I have time later. That's the way I like to carry myself. And if you have that confidence, confidence really does sell anyway. And so those are the things I want to ask them before I ever even go out to the property. After I've asked them those questions, I'm not done yet. If I found that they're a candidate possibly after I've asked them all those questions for me, then I could begin to try to sell myself. I'm not going to say, hey, we've been around for this long. You can kind of briefly touch on those, but don't brag about those things. I don't think those are going to be the things that helps you sell this client. I think what's going to help you even more is you establishing yourself as the expert. The best way you can do that is by asking a ton of questions, right? So you've asked those questions, you've opened that up, you're already starting to establish yourself as the expert. And one other question too, by the way, that you may throw in with that is, have you had any other contractors come out and look at it, right? That's also very important. I like to know that too. See what I'm dealing with. Have they already gotten a pitch from someone? Have they already seen their process, or have they not, but they still are planning to? Either way, I love it when I have to compete with other contractors, because I feel like the thoroughness, the detail that I'm going to provide with them, and the time that I'm going to take, and all the questions that I'm going to ask them, and the expert advice, strategy advice that I give to them free of charge without them even signing with me, I believe I'm going to blow away any other contractor. So I like to hear that, right? So that'd be another question to perhaps throw in there. But then I want to know from them, like, how are they looking at this? Because chances are most clients, when they call you for an insurance job, and let's say they've already had an insurance estimate, especially this is where they're at then, they've got an estimate for a certain amount, and they believe that they have to go and hire a contractor now that's going to do the job for that amount or less. If they can find one that'll do it for less, all the better to them, right? And if they can figure out a way in their mind to somehow save their deductible or make money off of it, some people will go down that road too. But I find most people really just want to get the work done. Most people are good clients. You're not trying to profit off of it, do anything shady, but they don't understand it correctly. They're just trying to be a savvy business consumer like you and me, and they're trying to get the best deal possible. They're not trying to just be wasteful. They're trying to be a good steward of these insurance funds. They've been paying their premiums for a while. They don't want to mess this up. So I don't think that they're necessarily trying to get over on contractors by getting different bids and things, but they just don't know any better. They're not educated on it, okay? So, because of course, if you've been watching any of my content for a while, you know that that's not the way that they should be doing it, okay? If you're a property owner and you have an insurance claim and you're watching this, that's not how you should be doing that. What you should be doing is looking first at what the insurance company has written down in their estimate and looking for all the trove of information that they've missed, all the information that they've left out. You now need to get those items added to the insurance claim and approved and paid for, okay? So you going to hire somebody that's going to do the job for that amount, and those line items that are listed is not doing you any good, because that's not doing the job well enough. That's not doing the job accurately, detailed, and fully enough. It's not getting all the repairs that are affected done. It's not all the way up to building code. None of those things are happening if you're just settling on whatever it is that they've written for you, and you're just trying to take the insurance adjuster's word for it and do whatever it is that's on the paperwork, right? So that is the backwards way of doing things. You first need to get the insurance company to approve it and then do the work, right? So the client doesn't know any better. So the whole thing is, you've got to educate them from start to finish. You need to educate them, because you know what? It's almost like a marriage in the sense, or a long-term relationship, a commitment, right? You're going to be with this client for several months, and you do not want to be miserable with this client. You want to be able to get along with them. You want to be transparent with them. You want to be on the same page with them. When you submit things to the insurance company and to the mortgage company, copy the client. Keep them in the loop. Let them know what you're doing at all times. When you know that insurance check is coming at some point in time, they should learn about that from you. You should be the one that notifies them, hey, you should, keep an eye out, you're going to be getting a check from State Farm, right? So from start to finish, I want to create a very, very clear set of expectations. I want to let them know how they can expect this process to go, and give them what I like to refer to as a roadmap, okay? And tell them that. I'm going to give you what is a roadmap, okay? And the first thing is Mr. Jones, I realize that you called me based on what you're telling me, is you're looking for me to come out and give you a price, okay? Well, I can kind of save you some time with that, because if looking for a price is what you're after, I can give you a price before I ever even come out. I don't need to come out to give you a price. I can give you a price without ever even putting my hand on my tape measure, okay? And that is, my price is to perform all repairs that are prescribed by the insurance claim. In my last video, I said, I never want to make a video and forget to leave out that phrase. That is what you are being hired to do as the contractor by the client. That is the role that you're being hired to do. Your role as the contractor in an insurance restoration project is to perform all the repairs that are prescribed by the insurance claim. Okay, and so that's what I would tell the client. So like the price that's on your insurance paperwork, and one of the things that I know right away is that all estimates that I've ever looked at are missing something from the insurance company. And so you have to understand is that as far as price is concerned, your insurance estimate that was written by State Farm, that's also important. I asked who was the insurance company, they told me State Farm. That tells me that the estimate that they have was written by State Farm, and it was written in Xactimate. Okay, so I have Xactimate too. So when I get to this part of it, look, as far as pricing, State Farm, your insurance company, they use a pricing software, an estimating software that is called Xactimate. That's what they use. And what that is it updates every month, and it's specific to your market, right? Like the Dallas-Fort Worth market is a different price list from the Houston market, and different price list from the San Antonio market. I'm in Denver right now. So the Denver price list is different from, the Colorado Springs price list, and on and on and on, right? So you need to understand that your specific market that you live in, there are prices for how much it costs to remove and replace 1 foot of drip edge, right? Or 1 square of shingles, right? That pricing software has a set price per foot, per linear foot, per square foot, for everything in construction that you can think about. Just about everything in construction, just about every material, just about, whether to remove and replace that drip edge, to reset it and detach it, to remove it only, to replace it only, labor only, materials only. It breaks everything down, okay? And the key thing that you need to understand is that we also use Xactimate. So our pricing is exactly the same as State Farm, and it updates every month. So every month those prices change, okay? So if the estimate you have, by the way, if that was written in a previous month, they actually have to update it, if it's moved upwards, they actually have to update it when you actually do the job to whatever those current prices are, right? But as far as pricing, I use the exact same pricing as State Farm. So, you would think that there would be a seamless, smooth process. Well, for the most part, it is a smooth process, right? But it's not already set up for success. Like State Farm's estimate, what I see all the time, and I like State Farm, you don't want to down their insurance company. What I like about State Farm is that they're efficient, and they usually approve legitimate and accurate items. Like if they're missing items from their estimate and we can point that out and we can document that and prove it to them, then generally they're going to approve that most of the time. So I enjoy working with State Farm. So I do think that it's a smooth process, but it always requires work. It's always missing something from the report. So we have to first start with a very diligent and detailed inspection, okay? And that's where I like to actually go and inspect every inch of your property, and I'll do that for free. That's no obligation to you. Like if you don't sign up with me, and I take hundreds of photos, by the way, and I'll even give you all the photos that I take, free of charge. If you don't hire me, I'll give you free advice. You can use those photos that I've documented for you. That's part of the benefit of me coming out. That's part of my free property damage inspection. And I'll inspect every bit of your property. I'll get my drone out, I'll inspect all of your roof, I'll inspect every inch of all the elevations of your house, the front, the right, the rear, the left, all of your unattached structures, any fencings, patios, all of your patio furniture, anything that I can see there, I will look for hail damage. I'll look at your windows, I'll look at your gutters and downspouts. I will look at your lights, your mailbox, okay? Like I'll do a detailed property damage inspection, but I also want to come to the inside. Now I want to inspect your attic if I can get access to that, but it would be my goal, every property that I look at, I like to look at every single room, closet, and hallway of that property. Mostly what I'm looking for is at the ceilings. I'll look around, your windows too, but mostly I'm looking at the ceilings to see if there are any water spots coming through from the roofing system. So that's part of what I do, is a full detailed property damage inspection, and then I document everything, photograph it to prove those items that are necessary in order to do the project correctly. Okay, so part of my inspection is to document and find those items that are missing from the State Farm report and then prove it. And then from there, of course, as I said, I use the same estimating software, Xactimate, so then we do our version of the estimate, and then we get with State Farm, we work with them to get on the same page. We try to meet somewhere where it's reasonable, where everything is covered, and so we do all the repairs that they prescribe for the amount of money that they approve them for. And that's why I said, before I even come out, I wouldn't even have to put my hand on my tape measure. I can tell you right now what my price is. My price is to perform all repairs that are prescribed by the insurance claim for the amount that it's approved for. I want to let them know that that's my process, right? And so like when I come out, when we have our inspection, you want to at least leave a couple hours for that time frame. I like to do it when everybody is home, do it when you and your wife is home, like if you're talking to the husband, and then let them know that you plan to come to the inside to inspect every room, closet, and hallway. And you need to do that. That's very important because, especially if you're talking to the husband and he's married, maybe his wife, or maybe it's the opposite, right? Maybe his wife doesn't want unexpected visitors just coming in and looking through every room in the house, right? I'm the man of my house. I wouldn't be comfortable with that either. So you need to give them some expectation. Give them some time to maybe do a quick pickup if they want to, and prepare for you to be able to come. And if they know that you're coming to look at every room, closet, and hallway, and attic, and every inch, then they know that that's going to take some time. So give them that clear expectation so that they can set up enough time for it. These are just tips so that you don't have to do 3 appointments to sign them up. You can really truly do it on the first time that you ever go out there and do your inspection. You don't have to do an Xactimate estimate to sign them up. So a lot of people are thinking, I got to go back, type out this Xactimate estimate. Oh no. In fact, even if I were to do that, I wouldn't give them a copy of it anyway. Like they're never getting a copy of that unless they sign up and become a client of mine. If they insist upon that, then I'll try to talk them out of it. But if they do insist on it, I will do it, but I'll hand them my laptop and let them roll around with my estimate for as long as they want. They can dissect it for as long as they want, but they can't have a copy of it. They can see it just to know that I'm serious and that I know what I'm doing, like if I find myself having to do that. But I don't even like to do that. I find that that's unnecessary. That's not something you need to do just to sign them up. I do think you need to spend time with a detailed inspection. So before even going out, creating that expectation, and then if they know that you're getting all the funds that are approved by the insurance company, but it's not apples to apples, it's apples to oranges. There's no way they can compare you anymore to John Q. Contractor that they've been thinking about hiring, right? Because that guy doesn't care about getting the numbers up or getting the items added to the estimate. He's only thinking about taking the insurance adjuster's word for it and doing whatever it is that's been approved by the insurance adjuster to this point, right? So what I find is if they are the kind of client that wants to get their repairs done and they don't want to make any money, they just want things fixed and addressed, and they really don't want it to take a bunch of time, and be a big hassle, then those are the kind of clients that will want you to come out to meet with them. And at that point, then it's just a matter of, okay, well, I'm going to be in your area quite a bit this coming week. Mornings, afternoons, or evenings best for you? They say mornings, okay, great. Well, I'm going to be there on Tuesday and Thursday. Which is Tuesday morning or Thursday morning work best for you? They say Tuesday morning. I say, okay, great. Well, I have an opening here at 9:15 or 9:30, or later on in the day around 10:45 or 11 work best for you, right? Like I'm giving them options. I think I always found that that's helpful because if you're setting up an appointment like with a doctor's office or something, they don't say, well, what time's good for you? That would just take forever, and it's an open-ended question, and it allows the client to dictate what time they're coming out. I want to control that. I've got my open times in my schedule, so I'm giving them choices, much like a doctor's office would be. Just small things like that will help you control the process, okay? But when you go out there and you meet with the client, when they answer the door, they're usually wanting you to go and look right at the damage. Like if I need my AC fixed and I call the AC guy and I know he's coming, I go answer the door, I say, oh, hey, hello, I can see it's the AC guy, right? I'm like, right this way. And I start, leading him to where the AC problem is, right? Well, that's what most clients do when you go see them about something like this, as you probably know. And it's your job to kind of stop that momentum, and it can sometimes feel a little awkward, but I like to bring like a little packet of information information. And if you don't have one of these already, it doesn't have to be very intense, but it could just be I'll just give you the broad bullet points here, okay? Like put it into one of those presentation folders with the pockets inside, a place for your business card. You can buy these anywhere. You can have your logos designed on the front of them if you want to. But if you don't have that yet, you can just go buy the blank ones and get started now. And you could get some forms that I'm going to tell you about, make copies of them, staple them together and put them in, and that's your presentation packet. You can even get a laminated cover at like Office Depot or something. But what on the front is who you are, right? Like your company name, maybe your logo, your address, phone number, website, email, like the most important contact information, how they can contact you. If you have a license number where you are, put that in there, obviously, right? And then opening it up, I would have like, a basic page full of like all your bells and whistles, like all your certifications and all your accomplishments and the things that you generally brag about, BBB or whatever it is that you're involved with, Owens Corning or whatever, preferred installers, whatever you are, GAF, great, have it all on one page. But the caveat to that, I would say, don't spend a lot of time bragging about that. What I found is, it's so crazy really, is that most clients actually don't care as much about all that stuff that you think they care about. They don't care about how many people's on your crew. They don't care about their certification levels. They don't care about special features and benefits of Owens Corning or GAF. They don't care near as much as you think they do. They care about lifespan, and we'll have to replace it again if it gets hit by hail. You'll find them asking occasional questions that they're curious about, but they actually don't care about the things that you think they should matter and that should matter the most, right? Is how is the actual construction going to go down, or the type of materials that are going to be used. They don't care about those things. They can act like they do when you start talking about those, and they can act like they're interested, but they're really not. So I don't want to spend a lot of time bragging about those things. I do want to point them out to let them know that we are, experienced and certified, or whatever it is that we're required to be, okay? That we are competent to get this job done. But those aren't the things I want to go and brag about. What I found is the thing that, and that's, by the way, what all your competition is doing. They're bragging about all that stuff. You need to do everything different from the competition, man. You got to set yourself apart from the competition, okay? The topics of concern that you're going to get the most interest from, they're going to help you sell the project best, are going to be the insurance-related matters. It's going to be those. It's not going to be about the materials, okay? And it's not going to be, if you're doing the job right, they may think it initially, but it's not going to be about the price. You need to get rid of dollar amounts from price, from estimating, okay? And just focus on line items only. But even more importantly, you got to get your client to understand that they should be focused on line items only. What are the line items that are missing from the estimate, okay? So the bells and whistles page, not a lot of time with that. Maybe I give them a printout of the BBB profile, if it's good, right? Or your insurance certificates or what, things like that, just so they can have for proof. But then I want to have a basic page with bullet points on it, okay? That doesn't have, it's not like detailed on every point, but it has like bullet points. And this is really, it's a visual tool. It's something they can take with them, but it's something that I want to go through and point out each one of these bullet points, but I want to stop and give some narrative and some context as I do it on each one. Like some commentary, okay? So the bullet points are, and it's entitled The Insurance Restoration Process, right? And this is where I want to let them know what they can expect from an insurance claim in general. So not having anything to do with us. Like, this is whether you hire us or you hire somebody else. These are the things that you should be expecting. So that's where I tell them about Xactimate. Maybe I talked about it on the phone, but now I really want to go into it in depth and show them what I'm talking about, okay? And I want to carry with me a binder that has an actual copy of an Xactimate estimate in it, the original estimate from an insurance company on a real client. Black out the information from the client info, right? But use the real client information or a real client estimate and show them a copy. And maybe it's in a binder that's laminated, but this is not something that you leave with them. It's just a visual presentation tool, okay? So I want to show them what Xactimate is. Maybe they haven't met with the adjuster yet. They haven't got an estimate yet. But if they have got an estimate, even better, because this is all going to ring true for them, all right? they're going to recognize it's in the same format. But I want to show them a copy of an original Xactimate estimate, right? And then I want to show them a copy of my version of the Xactimate estimate that I wrote for that same project. And then I want to show them the end result, like the final revised copy that State Farm agreed to at the end, okay? So I want to have this all in a binder. So I want to talk to them about Xactimate, what that is, who Xactware is, and then briefly show them a copy of that original State Farm estimate, right? And kind of point out to them, you see there, drip edge per linear foot, right? And I want to show them a couple things that's wrong with this estimate though. Because look, it doesn't show remove the shingles from here, or remove the pipe jack, right? Or it's missing the masking and taping on the interior, or it's missing this and it's missing that. And I also want to go through and tell them about, so I've told them about Xactimate, and then also building codes, ordinance and law. I want to point out that these are usually in a policy, and I can't really get into policy and coverage with you. I can verify coverage, make sure you have certain things, but I can't really, advise you on that, except to say that there's an ordinance and law type of coverage that you should have. It's a building code upgrade coverage, and that just says that if something happens, you have to make repairs. What if the building codes have changed, and now you have to bring them up to code, right? So that could be a factor, and you should have that coverage, and provided that you do, then that means that the insurance company has to approve that. But it's really, regardless of the insurance company approves it or not, if I have to perform those repairs as the contractor, I have to comply with the law regardless. Like, it doesn't matter if the insurance company approves it or not, or if you even pay for it or not, I have to comply with the law. Okay, so going back to that insurance estimate you see here from State Farm, and if the flashing must be replaced where rusted, damaged, or deteriorated. So if you can see, they have a chimney on here, the flashing has holes in it, it's damaged, it's rusted, but the insurance company doesn't have it in the estimate. That would be an error, right? That would be an omission, correct? I mean, so that's really an example of we look for things that are missing, and then we get those items in. So that would require me, photographing that chimney area, getting copies of those relevant building codes that apply for that section, and including them in my estimate, which is also in the Xactimate format, right? So, but the insurance restoration process, the adjuster typically comes out, they write an estimate with Xactimate, they're supposed to comply with codes, they're usually in a hurry for a lot of other reasons, they have a lot of things going on, they miss a lot of items, they write you an estimate and a check. But see, the fact that they're missing a lot of items, a lot of people, once they understand that makes them angry, makes them frustrated. But you have to understand is that most of the time, I want to give the insurance adjusters a benefit of the doubt, I don't believe that most of them are bad people, that they went out there to try to get over on the client. I just think that there are other factors usually. I just think that in their mind, they realize that there's a process for missing items, which is called the supplement process. And that's where I would, explain to them how the supplement process works. That's one of the beauties about insurance restoration, is that, Mr. Jones, if you hired me for just cash, right, with no insurance, say there's no insurance company involved, and you hired me to do some repairs, and you come home one day, we've been working there all day, and I say, oh, hey, I'm really sorry to have to let you know this, but today while you're at work, we opened up the wall, and we found more damage, more water damage stuff, and it's going to cost a ton more money. So I've written up a new estimate. It's going to be $5,000 extra, but I have no choice. You're going to have to pay it. Here's the estimate. That's going to be a shock to some people. That's going to be devastating, right? But with insurance restoration, you could come home, that same thing could have happened, and you come home and I tell you the same thing and say, we found all this new damage, we wrote up a new estimate, but you don't have to worry about it because we're going to submit it over to the insurance company and work with them to get that approved. You see the difference there? So, insurance restoration claims are never closed until all the repairs have been performed and they've been paid for. So it's not just done when the adjuster goes out there and inspects it for the first time, writes up the estimate and a check. If anything comes up during the process, if you discover items you didn't know about before, or if you come to find out that in order to perform the repairs that the adjuster has laid out, you're going to also have to do several other repairs. That's the beauty, is that usually if you do it right, those things can and will be paid for, and it won't be extra money, additional money out of the client's pocket. Okay, so that's the beauty about insurance restoration. I just want to also point out, other things that they should expect from that, right? Like there are if there are other things that come up, sometimes, you have to submit this to the insurance company and they have to send somebody else out, right? Sometimes there's a mortgage company involved, which I'll touch on in a little bit. But that's the insurance restoration process. But then I want to show them how our process works, okay? Typically we come out, we meet with you, we tell you everything about us. We try to educate our clients about all the aspects of insurance restoration so that they're better off whether they hire us or not. If they could go on to, and I believe this, if you go on to hire somebody else, but you've learned something from this meeting, then I'm happy about that. That's my goal, actually. So that's the first step, is to educate our clients. And then we inspect every inch of their property for damage. Then we prove all that damage by documenting, gathering up the documentation, and all this documentation is yours to keep free of charge whether you hire us or not. Now at that point, assuming you do have damage, once I do my inspection and I have the results of that inspection, then I will take everything, put it all together, the results of my inspection. I'll give you a folder that you can have on Google Drive, and then I'm also going to have my agreement all filled out and ready for you to sign, and you will have the opportunity at that time to hire me if you so choose. If you don't, I'm not going to ask you a second time about it. I'm just going to keep moving. But that's how we work. And then once you sign up, we'll take the agreement paperwork all together, submit it to the insurance company, and start following up with them to make sure that they agree to all the missing line items that they missed in the first place. And we'll perform all repairs that they have prescribed, and you will not have to pay anything beyond your deductible and the amount that they have approved. Okay, so you see, I'm giving them a clear roadmap of how it works from start to finish. So I want to sit down with them. I want to go over that packet, right? And I want to go over the insurance process, and I want to go over our process. Now, the natural thing to do right from that page is to show them a copy of your blank agreement paperwork. So like for me in my course, I've got a couple different agreements that I would have you use to sign them up. If they had a mortgage, I'd have you sign a letter of authorization also, maybe a couple other things depending on the situation. But typically it's just, each one of these agreements are just on one page. So I would just have, 2 documents completely filled out for them, and maybe 3 with a letter of authorization. But I want them to see this paperwork now. It's all blank, but I want to show it to them, and I don't want to rush over it. I want to show them. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to get up from here. Let's walk around and ask you some questions about we'll do a walkthrough together. And then at that point, I'm going to go on my own and do more, photographs, some measurements. I'll get up into your attic. I'll go outside, do my stuff outside. I'll fly my drone. Then I'm going to go out to my office, my truck, right, and put together the results of my findings, essentially, put it all together into this agreement paperwork. And these are the actual documents that I'm going to present to you at that time. That's going to be today. Now, we don't have to rush it. Like if you're not ready at that time, I will be ready to move forward. If you're not, that's fine. But essentially, we both have a homework assignment to do. Your homework assignment is to go and do more due diligence on me, do research. If you want to check out the BBB stuff, you want to check out some of my references that I have in this packet, if you want to, check out some information in your policy or your insurance paperwork, whatever you want to do, that's your homework assignment, right? My homework assignment is to do all these photos, do a complete inspection, get it all together, and to fill out this paperwork, okay? Once I'm done with that, I'm going to come back inside, we'll sit down, and we'll go through everything together. But what it's going to say on this agreement, I'll have your name and your address obviously filled in there, I'll have your number there, I'll have your phone number there, I'll have your insurance information, like I'll have the name of your insurance claim or insurance company there, the claim number will go right there, and then I'll have your mortgage company there. And do you have a mortgage? See how I did that? Like I'm just rolling right through. I'm accomplishing all kinds of things by doing this, right? I need to know if they have a mortgage because that's going to come into play later. So the name of the insurance company here, the claim number here, the mortgage company here. And do you have a mortgage? You do? Okay. And who's your mortgage with? And I kind of take them off guard the first time. And then once they answer me, I take them off guard again, like catch them off guard again. So and name of your mortgage company here, your loan number here. And do you have a mortgage? Okay. And who's your mortgage with? Wells Fargo? Okay. Well, great. That just means that basically sometimes the insurance company, depending on if it's over a certain amount, will name the mortgage company on there too because they have an interest in this too. But it prevents you from being able to access those funds right away. You got to go through a process with the mortgage company. But essentially means that, if you have Wells Fargo, then I know for a fact that we've got to send information to One Assurant Way in Springfield, Ohio, 45066. And kind of chuckle a little bit. But it gives them, and that's a correct address. And I'll tell them that's a real address. Like, we deal with this all the time. And that's an important thing to point out here, is that the mortgage process, if that does happen, like, because you don't do that all the time, it can be confusing, but we deal with that all the time. So we actually deal with that for you. That's another service that's included. That's another benefit that's included with the service when you hire us, is we actually handle all that mortgage stuff for you. And we even have a letter of authorization over here. I'll show them. Here's a letter of authorization. This just gives us authorization to speak with the mortgage company about the insurance claim process, to get those checks released, etc. What we'll do is they may want like a contractor's affidavit or homeowner's affidavit, a contractor's W-9. They may want a copy of our most recent estimate. Maybe they want a copy of the insurance adjuster's most recent estimate, copy of our contract, and maybe some other things, right? Whatever they want, we'll gather it up for them. We'll get the check, put it all together with that, with detailed instructions. We'll put it into a FedEx envelope that's marked for next day air by 8:30 a.m. delivery. We'll pay for that. Also in that envelope will be a return envelope that the mortgage company can use, also prepaid by us, for them to send it back next day air. We'll have tracking numbers on everything, so will you. So we deal with that. And then once we send it off to them, we're on the phone with them every day. Like, hey, we sent you this packet. It was signed off by Brenda Smith this morning at 9:30 a.m. Did you get enough information? Do you need anything else, right? Like, we'll deal with that process for you. And a side note here, that's a big thing here. Like I had a long time client who's close to me, and I've worked with him for a while and given him a lot of advice, helped him on a lot of projects. And he asked me the other day, he said, hey, what do I do when they put the mortgage company on it? That was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, this guy's got access to my course. He's watched a lot of my videos. We talk all the time. And I was just shocked that, number one, he's never understood that from me yet. But maybe even more shocking is that he's hardly ever even encountered this issue. He's done a lot of commercial jobs. He recently started doing a lot more residential jobs. And he actually has never even encountered this problem. And so the times that he did run into it, he would just let his client handle it. And he would ask them, hey, by the way, Mr. Jones, have you got a chance to contact the mortgage company? Do you know when that is? And he would just let the process sort of play out, and it would take forever. So back to that whole time is money thing. It's crazy, right? Like the time, you get everything approved, and then the mortgage company is held up, but a lot of the delay, so many days, can be attributed to just somebody not making a phone call. It's just ridiculous. I refuse to allow the client to be in charge of that process. The best way to do that is to let them know before you even sign them up. Instead of making it like something you have to apologize for, make it something you could be proud of, that it's actually a benefit that's included with your service, right? Like, we actually include the administrative work for this also. When I had like 100 jobs on the books in South Florida. It was 2005, 2006, from hurricanes, Hurricane Wilma, I think it was. Yeah, Hurricane Wilma. And my sister, who was young at the time, she was just young, and she was working for me. And I'll never forget, she had her own little office, and all day long, her whole job, all she ever did was contacted mortgage companies to track this money down, right? Every single day, aggressively, every day. Not even insurance companies. No time for that. Her only role, because we had so many jobs, was to contact mortgage companies all day, every day. So I think you got to be aggressive on the mortgage companies, though, but the way so that you don't run into that problem later, and I'm going to touch on more of the mortgage stuff here in a moment, is to set the clear expectations right in the very beginning with the client. Okay, so when you sign them up, you go through. I spent a lot of time there. This video could be entitled "How to Sign Up a Client." It's not. I've got other content that's better and more goes into more depth on that, but that's not why I'm talking about that. I'm talking about it because I'm giving you tips about how to control control the process with the client, okay? If they understand everything that you're gonna be doing, then they're gonna be a teammate for you. You can kind of see that a light bulb goes off and that they get it. If sometime during this presentation, before you ever start doing the inspection and such, they're like, oh shoot, I gotta get them to go look at this. Like, hey, I need to show you this area, I need to show you. They get it that it's better to have more line items, which would result in the price being higher, right? So you can see they've changed their mind. They're no longer seeking a contractor that can do it for that price or less. They get it now, right? You can see the light bulb go off. And now you have a willing teammate, and you set down the ground rules. Like if they do sign up with you, you want to let them know, like, never let the adjuster come out here without me being here, right? Like anything they call you about, direct them to me. You can talk to them, but just keep me in the loop, right? Like I'm going to keep you in the loop on everything. If I find out something new, I'll let you know. And if you find out something new, you got to let me know that too, okay? So that's the number one tip here, and it'll probably be the longest, okay? Which is to get your client on the same page with you. All right, so that's tip number one, is to control the sign-up process with your client. Tip two is to not just control, but to dominate the inspection process. So the inspection process, I want to also maybe add to that inspection process / investigation, okay, / information gathering. That's really what it's all about, okay? And so again, you want to get your inspection done. You want to give yourself enough time to do it all at one time if you can. If it's possible for you to do that all in one trip, isn't it better to do that than have to come back another day? That's just delaying the process that it takes to get your client signed up. Okay, but once you are there, if you can get all of your inspection done at one time, and say they do sign up with you, you don't have to now set up an appointment for you to come back and do an inspection, right? You've got that done. You can now move forward to the next step. You can start thinking about the building process, getting the insurance company to approve this stuff so you can build it, so you can make a profit and make some money, right? That's the objective here. You want to dominate the inspection process, the investigation process, the information gathering process. That begins with knowing what codes come into play for this job. You have to figure out what are the codes that come in to play, which ones are applicable to this particular project. I want to think about that from the very beginning. Think about items that are missing from the insurance estimate that need to go in just because of codes, right? So I can find out a lot about that just by looking at the initial insurance paperwork and doing the inspection, a detailed inspection when I'm there, and putting all the facts together, but also asking the client a ton of information. So like when I'm doing that presentation with them, the next thing I do is I get up and I walk around with them together. I mentioned that's the next thing I'm going to do, is we're going to walk through together and go through some things. And that's where I'm asking them a ton of questions. I'm not asking them to give me the insurance paperwork. Instead, I'm asking them, well, what'd your insurance company say about this? Typically, State Farm will pay to detach and reset this ceiling fan, for example. Did they have that in the estimate? What'd State Farm say about that? Or, maybe you're outside doing the walk around on the outside. I mentioned the building codes about chimney flashing. So you got a chimney up there. What's State Farm say about that, right? And typically what they'll do is they will rush and grab the State Farm estimate, and they'll be like, I don't know, let me go get the paperwork. And they'll go get it and shove it into your hands because they want you to decipher it for them. They want you to explain it for them and translate it, right? So instead of me saying, can you get me the paperwork, I'll just keep asking them questions like that. What's State Farm say about this? And if they don't play along, I'll go to the next room. What's State Farm say about this? Well, typically State Farm will pay to have it done this way and that way. What'd they say about yours, right? And they still don't, go to the next day. What's State Farm say? They will go get it. Now, if they don't, there's something wrong. They're trying to hide something. If they don't get it by now after your detailed presentation, your phone call, if they don't know by now that you guys have to be on the same team here, this will never work if like they're going to be the one handling things with the insurance company and they are like the go-between with you. No. Don't get yourself involved with that. I know you've had clients like that. I have too, but I don't deal that way anymore. Long ago gave up doing it that way. Like, you got to be the captain of the ship, right? So the inspection, I talk about it all the time. You need a minimum of 100 photos for any job. I don't care how small it is. Mine's going to be 300 or more, but you need to inspect truly every room, closet, and hallway on the property, every inch of every elevation, the attic, do the drone stuff. Get as much evidence as you possibly can to prove. So you have to find which line items are missing, but now how can I prove it? See, people stop at the which line items are missing. No, man, it amazes me how many contractors don't have any photos at all. They just think that if they write it on the estimate, that'll get it approved. Maybe it will, but it's going to require callbacks, and it's going to require more trips, because they're going to want that stuff eventually. Maybe because the insurance company doesn't have that and they see that on your estimate, they say, you know what, screw it, we're just going to schedule a re-inspect. They get another adjuster out, which is now adding another week and a half, 2 weeks to it. Adjuster has to come out, and it's going to take him several more days to get his estimate together and his payment out. You see what I mean? Like, a lot of this stuff is being dragged out unnecessarily, and you can be the one to control that, right? Like, I want to say also that another reason why time is so important is that everything that I do is sort of anti-litigation. I had a comment on my last video on YouTube from RJ. Shout out to you, RJ. Awesome subscriber on the channel. And what he was saying is, and he does public adjusting, and what he was saying is that he tries to do everything with a lot of documentation, but everything he's trying to do is to kind of avoid the litigation. He's trying to avoid doing things that will take longer. And a lot of times, that is my knock on PAs, on public adjusters. Like, he's one of the good ones. And I got a lot of good ones that I know and have actually done work for. I think they are necessary. But a lot of times I'm always like, you don't need to take it to appraisal. You don't need a PA. You don't need to hire a lawyer. You don't need to sue the insurance company. Even if some of you, that's what you do for a living. I'm sorry to say that. I don't think it's required. Sometimes you're going to need a PA. I get it. So that's why I do think there is a benefit. But if you've hired a PA, your PA should be one of the good ones that does a killer job of gathering the documentation. One of the benefits of having a PA is they're allowed to deal with policy and coverage, whereas contractors are not. So I get it. I'm not saying that you can do all this stuff without a PA and deal with policy and coverage. I'm not saying that. But he made a good point that, everything he does is so diligent and thorough so that he can avoid litigation. Litigation, sort of my response to him, takes years. It takes forever. That's my reason for not wanting to do it. Now, certain people are like, well, if they approve my number, I don't care if it takes 9 months or 2 years or whatever, because they've approved my number. But remember that time is money analogy that I gave you at the beginning of the video. If you're going to get paid, say, $100,000 in profit, is that $100,000 in profit better if it only takes you 3 months to do the job and turn it all the way around? Or is it better if it takes you 2 years of dragging it out? You have to stretch your $100,000 in profit now over that entire period of time, however long it takes you to get it, from the cradle to the grave. So that's why I think anything I could do to avoid litigation is the best thing possible. And the best way to do that, the best way to get approvals, is to find the missing line items and to prove it. Okay, so that's why I say dominate the inspection. This is something I say a lot. There is no one associated with the project that you're working on that should ever know more about it than you. There's no one ever that comes into contact with that job. The owner, adjuster number 1, adjuster number 2, adjuster number 3, doesn't matter. Some appraiser, some PA, some attorney, insurance company attorneys, mortgage company inspector, nobody, subcontractor, nobody should ever be more familiar with the details of that project than you. And if that's true, no one can beat you. No one can beat you. If it's legitimate damage, if it's accurate damage, you find the missing line items, you can document it to prove it, you will win. And you'll do it in a shorter time period. Because if you've got the documentation that the adjuster can see clearly, from a desk even, why do they need to send somebody else out? Like, if there's a ton of additional items, they probably do. But if it's just a handful of things and you have them and they're proven with photographs, they don't even need to send someone out. A lot of you have already found that that's true, right? So tip number 2, dominating the inspection process / investigation / information gathering process. Tip number 3, during the supplement process, the estimating and supplementing process, do the adjusters work for them whenever and however possible. Let me explain what I mean. When you go out and meet with the adjuster for the very first time, if you go back and look at my last video, I talked about how you need to let the game come to you. Don't rush out there with a wild estimate that you're giving them that's all huge. Don't rush out there and give them your estimate. Get out there, let them know that you've been hired to perform all repairs that are prescribed by them. And so you're just there to get your marching orders. You're there to get your instructions. You're there to find out what it is that they're going to approve that you need to even write an estimate on. If they ask you for an estimate, that's how you would respond. And so you're letting the game come to you. Your goal is to get there, get the adjuster to first apply coverage, okay, like acknowledge that these items are damaged and need replaced. That's applied coverage, right? And then finding out what are the items that is that adjuster's version of items that are necessary to be included in the estimate, okay? So that's what I'm trying to do at the, they're saying, oh yeah, the roof needs replaced. Then I might point out, oh, by the way, did you know that there are building codes that come into play here? I'm also gonna have to do this, I'm also gonna have to do this, and try to just kind of nudge him gently to make sure he's adding as many items on that estimate as possible, right? But I really just want them to write that estimate, right? I want them to release the check. I want to get some applied coverage on the table, get some money on the table. I want to get that money off the table, then start dealing with the items that are missing, because they're sure to be there, okay? So what I really want to do though is, I don't expect that the adjuster would have gone into every room, closet, and hallway unless I was there. So part of it is like, hey, I want to show you this room. I want to tell you. So I just let them know, like, we're going through all the rooms, right? And I want to kind of drag the adjuster. They won't refuse unless they run out of time and they have to reschedule. I've had that happen, but they'll go with you. If you want to keep showing them something new, they'll go with you, because really they're supposed to do all this stuff without having to be asked for. Most of the time they don't. They'll just go and look at, if you said you had roof damage, they'll look at the roof. They might ask you if you have interior leaks, but if you say no, they're not going to go in and find them, which that's strange, because almost every inspection I've ever been to, I find damage that no one else even ever saw before, right? Even if they were looking for it, I go in and I see it. An adjuster, they should know that's true. So they should already be going in and taking the initiative and going and doing that full detailed inspection regardless. Like if they're just there by themselves with the client and there is no contractor on the scene, but they don't do that. So I go through and kind of drag them through. I get them going up into the attic. I get them going and looking at all the windows, every elevation, everything that I looked at essentially. I'm just trying to grab them and drag them along and get them to see those same things. I'm not expecting that they're going to take photos of it, so I want to maybe show them my Google Drive folder while I'm walking along. Like, look, I have a detailed Google Drive folder here with hundreds of pictures on everything that we're looking at today. So if you need them, I could send those over to you if that helps. Man, I did a drone video on the roof. I took screen grabs of all the best shots of everything. That'll probably help you. I'm happy to send that over to you if you'd like. They're like, oh yeah. So maybe they just take a few photos, maybe they take none, or maybe they still go through and take, a bunch of them the way they normally would, but they don't have to, right? You can give them the photos, you provide them all the work. Now they don't have to do it. They don't have to spend as much time because you're doing the work for them, right? Occasionally I'll have maybe an independent adjuster on that first meeting where they'll be like, do you have an ESX file that you can send me? You'll see in my others at other times, I'm happy to do that. In fact, that's my goal. I want to give them the ESX file. What is the ESX file? It's the data file, if you're not familiar with it. It is the estimate in a data file format where you can essentially send them it's like, you think of .pdf or .jpg, it's .esx at the end of it, right? And so if you send it to them in that format, like if I send it to you, you can't just open it up, but you can plug it and import it into your Xactimate software. Now you can open it up and start making changes to it. So essentially that'll allow the adjuster to take your estimate that you created and put their letterhead on it, their own name on it, and make it their own work. That is a goal that I'm trying to do, but not usually. There are exceptions of it, like hurricane deals, big giant jobs. Not usually though, on a standard regular run-of-the-mill project, especially like roofing jobs. I'm not usually looking to do that on the first go around, the first inspection with an adjuster. Instead, they're like, do you have an estimate? Well, I do use Xactimate, and I have the sort of the structure of one started put in place, and I understand you guys use Xactimate too. That's great, but I was hired to perform all repairs that are prescribed by you, so I'm here to get my marching orders first, because I need to know what it is that you're going to be approving, so that I can then know what it is that I need to write an estimate on, if that makes sense, okay? And that usually works pretty good for me, because I want to get them to offer up what they're going to pay for, take the money off the table, get the applied coverage, push them as far as possible in that process, but not by giving them an estimate. I want to get them to do it on their own, and then take all the money off the table, and then maybe I'm writing an estimate at that next stage, or maybe I'm sending a photo report to get a re-inspect, right, to get another adjuster out there. Or maybe I'm just calling in some issues like, hey, there are all kinds of missing items. Or maybe there's new damage that came up, since the last time the adjuster was there. Either way, if there is a re-inspect and there's a second adjuster coming out, or maybe even a third, right? If there's a new adjuster coming out, at that meeting, then it's my goal to get them to use my ESX file, right? So if we can then come to terms on all the missing items that were missing from the first estimate, just by talking about those items, okay, and doing a walkthrough and getting them to agree to those things, I will offer up, like, if you'd like, I can put all of this that we've talked about into my version of the Xactimate estimate with all the photos and all the building codes and all the research, and have it all neat and pretty for you, wrapped up in a bow, and I can send you the ESX file so that you could just make it your own. And if you find that some of those things aren't necessary, or if you want to take away or add things to it, then you'll have the ability to. They're usually like, oh yeah, that's awesome. So I find that independent adjusters usually love it when you do their work for them. Think about it. It takes hours to do those estimates, and so instead of thinking about it like, I'm not going to do that guy's work for him, I'm happy to save them all those hours if what it's going to come down to is them approving my items simply because I did the work for them. And so that's number 3, is trying to do as much of the adjuster's work for them. That's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. Which brings me to number 4. The number 4 tip to improving the speed of the insurance claim process: document the build. Okay, you may have heard me say this before too. I'm all about documentation, documentation, documentation. But I find that too many of you forget about documenting the build process. That's the most important thing. And see, this is another one of your huge advantages here, is that the insurance company is never, maybe some small exceptions, but almost never, are they ever going to send someone from the insurance company, like an adjuster, out to the job site that's going to be there while that job's being built. It's just not going to happen. And maybe you're not going to be there the entire time, you personally yourself, but your company will be, your representation will be. You'll be on that job the whole time. So you're going to have the ability, the opportunity to collect that documentation, and again, to prove the missing line items. Maybe you got missing line items approved before, but now we're doing the build and there's still items that they haven't approved previously, or maybe there's items that have come up since. Either way, you've got to document this stuff. You got to prove it. I would go above and beyond with the photographing of every little thing it takes to get the job approved. So all flashing must be replaced with rusted, damaged, or deteriorated. That's a building code. A lot of times they're going to want to see photos of that, like during the build. That's a perfect time to do it. I would take multiple photos of them taking the flashing out, holding it in the air, setting it down, putting the new flashing in. There's no such thing as too many photos. I would just go overboard about the photos to prove the items that were required during the build. I mean, it's so crucial. A lot of money can be made in the supplementing process on the build. Too many people, items will come up during the build, but they didn't photograph it, they didn't prove it. They know they could have gotten it approved, but they also know they didn't do what it took, which was way too easy, was just to make sure they were prepared and they took photographs of it. Do not rely on your crew to take the photos with you. They will not do it. Even if you put their money on the line, they're not going to do it. You'd be better off by hiring a professional photographer and posting them up at the job site all day. Like, seriously, I mean, you should have a project manager that can do this already, or a foreman, crew leader, right? But if you can't, at the very least, hire a professional photographer that could go out there and that could do that. And that brings me to the number 5 tip on speeding up and improving the timing of the insurance claim process. And that is to be in charge of the mortgage process. And I've already talked about it previously in this video, and so I'm not going to spend as much time on this point as I have on the others, but I just want to, re-emphasize that you've got to be in charge of the mortgage process. I would never get on an airplane and say to everybody there, like, you know what, today I'm flying this plane. Because I'm not a pilot. I have no training at all whatsoever, no experience whatsoever, right? And so why would I go and try to do that? That's silly. It wouldn't even serve my own best interest, right? It would put me at risk. And so as a property owner, and if you're a property owner, I hope you receive this, okay? Don't try to do things that you're not an expert at, especially if you have an expert right there who does it all the time that can do it for you. So if I get on a plane, I expect the pilot to fly in the plane. They're gonna do best at that job, right? They do it all the time. They've got the training, they've got the experience. So the mortgage process, again, time is money. Sometimes the mortgage company is going to want you to jump through all kinds of hoops. Sometimes they won't want much of you at all. Sometimes, the client can just walk into the bank and sign off on it. That's something I will let them be in charge of if their bank's going to let them do it. But essentially, you need to, and I'm going to drop another link right here for a whole video on how to do the mortgage process, like more tips on that, so you can really drill down into that deeper to give you step-by-step instructions on how to do that. But essentially, I want to give the mortgage company way more than they're ever going to ask me for. So I've kind of done like the strictest mortgage companies out there, the strictest things that they do ask me for, and I've gathered up like kind of a combination of all of them. Like, what is anything that any mortgage company could request of me? That's essentially what I want to give them in a packet, in a FedEx envelope, paid for by me, sent to them, arriving at their doorstep the next day. And then I want to call them the next day, and I don't want to let not even one single day go by without calling the mortgage company. I call them and said, hey, I sent you a packet. I think that I've provided you everything you're going to need to release this money, but can you double check that? Is there anything I'm missing? Is there anything in there that I need to, or anything not there that I need to provide? And they say, oh, no, it looks like we got everything. Okay, great. When are you going to send the check? Oh, it looks, we usually typically send it within, 2 to 7 days, whatever it is. Okay, but what day are you going to send it? Well, I don't know that yet. Okay, well, then I need to call them back the next day and find out, right? If they say, well, it takes 2 days to order the check, and then it takes 2 days to print the check, so it probably should be around Friday, right? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to call you back again tomorrow. And I ask them every time, do you see the FedEx envelope there? Are you going to use that? Can you please make a note to use that? Because I don't want you using your own snail mail, right? And they'll put a note. Yeah, I'll put a note right here. The next day I call back to kind of repeat the process, see where things are. And I'll ask them all the same questions. It'll be somebody different anyway, usually. And then I'll ask them the same thing about the FedEx thing. Do you see a note there about the FedEx thing? Oh, no, I don't. Okay, can you put it in there? Like, I just have to keep on hammering it home. I found that no matter what, it's like they have everything in place, but they still don't send the check for one reason. For one reason or another. Mortgage companies are just notorious for not sending the funds. But if you're all over them, like if you don't even give them a chance to breathe, you're on them every single day, all the time, putting the ball in their court, man, the quickest amount of time that you could get your hands on that money, you will. And maybe it still takes 10 days. Maybe it still takes 30 days. If you didn't do those things, how long would it have taken then? So anything you can do to cut the time frame down, just go back to the original part of the video. Time is money. Remember you building the deck, $5,000 a week. Now you only make $2,500 when it takes two weeks. Like, it is just so crucial. So when you go through all the 5 tips that I laid out here for you, if you try to do your best job on each one of those 5 parts of the process, you're going to find that you're going to aggressively improve and speed up the time frames in which it takes you to get to the cash, which ultimately means at the end of the day that your business is making more money than it did before. You might be making the same amount, but going back to what we explained before, you're actually making more income now when you're doing it faster and more efficiently. So, I hope you've gotten a lot from this. I've really put a lot into this video, as you could tell. I'm in Denver, Colorado. I try to find the best places to kind of set up my videos, and You can kind of see there's a lot going on in the background, and for a long period of time to make this video. I know I've really gone into a lot of details here. I've got other videos that go into each one of these little things a little bit more in depth. If you just want to pick out any one of these 5, parts of the process, I have other videos that drives down into it further. But to really get the best, and the most complete experience, go to iescertified.com and sign up for my training course today. All right, like, share, subscribe. Please, if you know others that are in your industry that can benefit from this video, please share it with them. Keep coming back. I'm going to keep pumping out new content. I promise you. Much love and God bless.